Hey everybody, I've got some good news and some bad news for you. Use the timestamps down below so that you can pick which one you want to check out first. I'm going to start with the good news. The good news is that there is a complaint that people have had about the new Steam controller ever since the first reviews came out. There was something that people were expecting that would just work that didn't work, and that left a lot of people scratching their heads. And that is the ability to use the controller when Steam isn't launched. Now, I've seen tons of people respond to this by saying it's a Steam controller. Of course, Steam needs to be launched, but you know, your Xbox controller, your PlayStation controller, pretty much every other controller out there doesn't need a special set of software to be launched in order to use it. And I can see why that would annoy people. Again, I play almost everything through Steam, so I always have Steam launched. But for anybody who was interested in the controller but didn't want to have Steam launched in order to play a game with it, well, let's check out these patch notes because I think you're going to be really happy about what they've said. Your money isn't going as far as it used to. Paying full price for games isn't something that you have to do. This is Eneba.com, a massive gaming marketplace with over 40,000 products, including game keys, gift cards, and more. Games that go for $60 to $70 on Steam, you can find for way cheaper on Eneba. For example, Resident Evil Village is currently $40 on Steam, but on Eneba, you can get it for $5.19. And Eneba isn't just limited to Steam games. You can also get Xbox Game Pass, PS Plus, and Steam wallet cards as well. If it's digital, Eneba has it for less. They use verified sellers and have an excellent Trustpilot rating. When you buy Eneba, your code lands in your email just a few minutes later. Plus, they do cashback on lots of orders so that you can save even more. So if you want to pay less for games, check out the link in the description or pinned in the comments. If you use that link, you're going to be supporting the channel and saving money at the same time. Now, back to the episode. Now, it's worth pointing out that this is the beta patch notes, and if you want to try the beta, it's incredibly easy to do so. All you have to do is press your Steam button, go into your settings, then system, then your system update channel, and switch that from stable to beta. And if you don't like the things that are happening when you do make that change, you can always very easily switch back. It's not a big deal. It's super, super easy to do. So just so everybody who's never tried that before, now you're aware, it's simple. All right. There are a couple of known issues with this beta. First off, it says there is a known issue with degraded performance in some cases when composition is required, such as when you have FSR enabled. They have this fixed in the stable release, but in the beta release, it's currently broken. Like it was probably already fixed, and then they broke it in the beta release, and now they're trying to figure out what it is that they did to break it. So if you are running into that issue, just switch back to the stable release and you're going to be fine. All right, let's take a look under general. It says added support for waking up from Steam controller wireless adapter 2015. So it looks like we're now going to be able to wake our SteamOS system from the original Steam controller, which came out in 2015. I gotta be honest, I didn't realize that you couldn't do that. It's surprising to me that you couldn't already do that, since you can wake it with a controller it wakes SteamOS with another controller. I just assumed that the original Steam controller would work, but I guess it didn't, and now it does. They also improved battery indications when the device is charging, but using more than the charger can provide. So maybe you are not using the default charger that came with your Steam Deck. You've got your Steam Deck docked and you're playing on the TV, and whatever game that you're playing is using up enough resources that the battery is not charging it fast enough. So what's going to happen is eventually you are going to run out of power, and then that's just going to shut down. Well, now they have new battery indicators to tell you exactly what's going on there, which is nice. Preliminary support for the Steam Frame wireless adapter. So that means we are getting ever closer to the actual Steam Frame coming out. I've seen a lot of predictions about when it's going to come out, and most of those predictions have already gone by. I think my prediction was that it was going to come out in July, but obviously that didn't happen. Maybe it'll come out later on this year, but the preliminary support being there, that's one more piece of evidence that shows that they are close to getting this thing out the door. Added support for Steam Controller 2026. This is what the title and thumbnail is probably about, if I unless I've changed it by now. Added support for the Steam Controller 2026 to use a built-in HID Steam Controller driver, enabling use with native controller applications when Steam is not running. So when the Steam Controller first was, the reviews first came out, a lot of reviewers complained that you couldn't use it unless Steam was running. And the reason why is because the Steam Controller is not really a controller. It is essentially a mouse and keyboard disguised as a controller. And you use Steam Input, which launches when Steam launches, in order to tell this mouse and keyboard in disguise how to pretend to be the controller in the way that you want it to be a controller. Well, it looks like that's no longer going to be necessary. So if you're playing a game that doesn't support or that isn't on Steam, like for instance, maybe I want to use Controller Port, which is a mod for World of Warcraft, right? And I want to play World of Warcraft using the controller, but I don't want to have to launch World of Warcraft through Steam. I'm just going to use the Battle.net launcher for that. Well, if I did that, I wouldn't be able to use my Steam controller to control the game. In order to control the game, I would have to launch it through Steam. Well, now I no longer have to launch it through Steam because they're building in a driver into the controller, which then allows it to be used outside of Steam, just like any other controller is. So now, yes, it is a mouse and keyboard in disguise, but at the same time, the disguise is so good that it is also a controller at the same time. It's a really weird situation, but I'm really surprised, honestly, that Valve took the time to implement it, because this doesn't do anything to help them. I mean, there's definitely some goodwill, but this doesn't do anything to help Valve sell games on their store. You know what I mean? I think that this is just par for the course for Valve, supporting hardware and software that isn't their responsibility. And look no further than later on in the video, I'm going to talk about a bunch of new handhelds that Valve doesn't make, that Valve is now supporting, or at least starting to support with their software, with SteamOS. And we see that kind of thing happen all the time. Also, we see constant where you see, you know, weird controllers like this Nintendo 64 controller getting support in Steam Input so that you can use that controller with your Steam games if you want, even though this is, you know, a competitor to what Valve is making with the Steam controller. So I think that this is really good news for anybody who's interested in the Steam controller that doesn't use Valve's software all of the time. For me, not a huge deal, but for a lot of people out there, this is a big deal, and it might be the thing that changes your mind about whether or not you want to buy a Steam controller. That said, if you haven't already tried to buy a Steam controller, I think that they are on order until 2027 already. And honestly, I gotta say, Valve, I know that you are a small company as far as how many people work at Valve, but you're also a company that makes quite a bit of money. And I think that your ability to ramp up production on something like the Steam controller, which doesn't have RAM, which doesn't have storage, those things are the things that are constrained right now due to the AI bullshit, I guess I'll say. There's nothing in the controller that is constrained in that way. So I don't know, spin up another factory line and make more of these things, since demand has completely outpaced your supply, something that Valve told me when I interviewed them right here on this channel. All right, let's get back to the patch notes. Next up, it says fixed an issue where hot plugging HDMI displays could cause lockups in desktop mode. I don't know who's doing that, but okay. Fixed an issue where TV supporting HDMI game mode would display the internal initial boot logo before engaging said mode, causing unnecessary delays and flashing. That is something that happened all the time on my TV. You can't see it, but I have a TV over there. On my TV over there, that would happen all the time. I didn't realize that was what the problem was. So now that that's fixed, I should probably see that less often. I'm going to have to check that out. All right, back into it. Fix some cases of slow or stuck Wi-Fi connections on certain adapters. Fixed an issue causing previous SteamOS updates to fail to apply for some users. I'm pretty sure that's happened to me a couple of times before, where I've updated SteamOS and then I get, it reboots and it comes back and I'm like, there's another update. And I'm like, I just updated. What are you doing to me? And that's definitely happened on the Steam controller, where I've updated firmware and then it asked me to update the firmware again. And I just get caught in this loop of continually updating the firmware over and over, especially because I plug it into a bunch of different devices. And every time I plug the Steam controller into a different device, it tells me that I need to update the firmware yet again, which was really frustrating. Most of that's been gone by now. And then they did some security and stability fixes. All right. If we take a look at Steam Machine Firmware 108, they fixed an issue where the system could occasionally wake up immediately after going to sleep. That actually happened to me. I have my Steam Machine out in the living room. If you want to know what I think of it, I just posted a video earlier today as I record this. My first impressions of using the Steam Machine for about a couple of weeks at this point. Spoilers, I like it a lot, but I've been using it out in my living room. And in the living room, I have CEC, and when I turn it on, it was turning on just fine. And I noticed this last night when I turned it off, it turned the TV back on. And I even went in and turned off CEC and then turned it back on and then off again. And that stopped happening. But I didn't think it was something to do with the Steam Machine. I thought it had something to do with my TV, because when I turned on my TV would like hang at like the home menu, because it's like an Amazon Fire TV or whatever. I don't use any of the built-in stuff. I just use it for HDMI. But that was a little frustrating for me that it would turn back on. So now that they fixed that, score, happy to hear it. Fixed a rare issue where CPU performance could be degraded until reboot. I've not run into that. All right, under audio, they have a fix for HDMI audio dropouts with some game TV combinations. I've not run into that. They have improved the reliability of HDMI hot plug detection. I'm guessing that's when you plug it in the middle of using it. Again, why are you doing that? That's such a weird thing to do. Although actually, now that I think about it, maybe this has to do something more along the lines with the Steam Deck, where you're already using the Steam Deck and then you're docking it so it can go up onto the TV. Maybe that's what they're talking about here. Next, they added an option to prefer low latency audio codecs for Bluetooth devices. That's actually really cool. If you want to use a pair of like Bluetooth headphones, like I've got my AirPods here, or I've got my Sony headphones sitting on the table back there, using a lower latency connection with those, that's actually really good news for anybody that uses those kind of audio devices. All right, non-Valve devices. This is something I kind of talked a little bit about already. They've added support for a bunch of non-Valve devices for SteamOS. So they've improved support for MSI Claw and 1X player device variants. There's multiple MSI Claws and there's multiple 1X players. So it looks like a bunch of them are getting improved support, which I guess they were already working on. Improved support for devices with external or no Wi-Fi adapters. Okay, so maybe you have a PC that you already own and it doesn't have a Wi-Fi adapter. Then you could buy an external Wi-Fi adapter, and I guess SteamOS was having a problem with that, but they fixed that. They fixed an infrequent bug where third-party handhelds would have input ignored when held. I never ran into that, and I've used SteamOS on multiple third-party handhelds. But then they also added in initial gamepad support for the MSI Claw 8EX AI Plus, which is the one that was announced this year. I think my friend Russ from Retro Game Core got to see it when he was in Taiwan earlier this year, and he said it was a really impressive piece of hardware, but it's also super expensive. But it looks like it's got gamepad support, so you're going to be able to use SteamOS with it. Added initial gamepad support for the Conquer Fit. When I saw this, I got really excited. And here's the reason I got really excited for it. The Conquer Pocket Fit is a really awesome Android handheld that I have. However, the Conquer Fit is a Windows-based handheld. So they added gamepad support for the Conquer Fit, not the Conquer Pocket Fit. I thought that this was, when I first read this, I thought this was like, oh man, they're starting to do Android support stuff, which I think they'll probably do in the future, but obviously not now. And then same thing for the Neo Pocket S2, and more information or more gamepad support for 1X Player Apex with new firmware. I've never even heard of that particular handheld. And then finally, they updated the Linux kernel to 6.18.42, which probably brings a bunch of fixes with it as well. So that's the good news. That's the good news. Let's talk about the bad news now. And the bad news is for anybody who has Steam hardware. So you've got the Steam machine, you've got the Steam Deck, you've got the Steam controller, you're going to be ordering the upcoming Steam frame. If you have Steam hardware and you live in Europe, there's a possibility that some data may have been breached. Now, Valve wasn't specifically hacked. It was somebody that Valve is working with. Let's take a look at this article that I found over at Digital Foundry. It says Steam Machine and Steam Controller customers in Europe are hit by a cyber attack. It says expect fake messages that mention your hardware order to appear to come from Valve. So if you've ordered hardware from Valve and you live in Europe, you just be very careful with what things you're opening when you get emails, okay? So here's what it actually says. It says between July 29, 2026 and August 1st, 2026, a cyber attack hit CEVA Logistic, a company that ships Steam hardware to customers in Europe. CEVA is still investigating this attack, but as Valve learned on August 7th, certain information about Steam customers, including you, was likely compromised. CEVA receives specific delivery-related information from Steam to be able to ship physical hardware to customers in Europe, and told us there are details the attacker likely took. Because CEVA retains this information for up to 90 days after that order, we are sending this message to all customers we can assume were impacted. For you, this means the following information related to your hardware purchase may have been compromised: your name, your street address, postal code and city, your country, your phone number, your email address, and the type and price of the order of the product that you ordered. So essentially what Valve is saying here, and they go into it specifically right down here, expect fake messages, email, SMS, or phone that mention your hardware order and appear to be from Steam, Valve, or a delivery company. They may quote your address back to you to prove that they're genuine. They may ask you to confirm a delivery, pay a small customs or redelivery fee, or sign somewhere to verify your order. Treat all of them as fake. You do not need to change your Steam password, and you do not need to do anything in your account settings. The reason that they're saying you don't have to worry about your password or your account settings is because Valve was not the one that was hacked. It was this CEVA shipping company, essentially. And they have this information so that they can give you your stuff, right? But they hold on to that information for 90 days before they purge it, but then they got hacked. And so now they've got a bunch of information about you, and they can start doing the phishing attacks to get you to give them enough information so that they can start like really screwing you over. So I'm sure that anybody who listens to this show is very careful about email. Be extra careful about email if you are in this group. And guess what? Just because we know that it happened in Europe and we don't know anything about whether or not it happened in the United States or other regions doesn't mean that it hasn't happened in those other regions. So be really careful about any emails that you are getting that look like they're from Steam or from Valve that are mentioning hardware that you bought, because you might have been compromised. All right. This is what else Valve has to say. 3 things that are always true. Steam support only handles issue accounts. Let me highlight this. There we go. Handles account issues at help.steampowered.com. Never by email, Steam chat, or Discord. Anyone who contacts you elsewhere claiming to be Steam support is not. So unless you're on the website, assume it's fake. Okay, they're not going to do Steam support through the email, I guess. They also say every real Steam login page is on store.steampowered.com or www.steampowered.com or steamcommunity.com or help.steampowered.com. Type the address yourself rather than following a link that somebody sent you. So instead of actually clicking on anything in your email, maybe you do get an email and you're like, okay, I just want to make sure that I'm going to get my stuff, right? Go to the website yourself. Don't click on the link, just go to the website and then see if there's information there. This happens to me all the time because as a person who has a YouTube channel, I get, I don't know, dozens of emails every day, and almost all of them are junk spam stuff. And whenever one looks pretty legit, but I'm not sure about it, instead of clicking on anything in the email, I go to the website that is supposedly about and I log in and I see if there's anything there. And if there's not, then I know that it was bullshit. So just be careful there. All right. What we're doing, this is what Valve says that what they're doing about it. We're pressing CEVA, that's a terrible name, for the full scope of what was taken and how, and we are in the process of notifying the protection authorities in the countries affected, including yours. CEVA has isolated the affected systems, taken all offline and brought in outside investigators. That was a really rough sentence to read out loud. So I think it looks like Valve is doing everything that they can to make sure that this is contained, and CEVA looks like they're doing what they can to make sure it's contained. Now you and me and everybody else has to do everything that we can to make sure that we don't fall for any nonsense. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about the good news and the bad news in the comment section down below. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching the show. And don't forget to click the like button before you go. From the Nerd Nest, I'm Bill. Stay rad, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.